Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going my cheat sheet for this weekend's NASCAR race on Sunday at 3 p.m. We're going to be going bowling at the Glen at Watkins Glen. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my new videos, I would really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. If you want access to some of my extra content, the link is in the description below for my Patreon, where you can get access to my entire NASCAR spreadsheet. It's got all this on here, all the stats you need that are color-coded. It's got my projections on there, my rankings, tiered rankings, so this 10K range, 8 to 9K range, that kind of thing. That is on there as well. You can get my Slack chat where you can ask me all the questions you want all day. You get my target sheet, GPP driver exposure, last year's winning lineup, which is nothing special. You can look that up for yourself, but that is available all on there. So if you want access to that, the link is in the description below, and let's get into it. So let's just do a brief overview of what this track is and how we should attack it. So this is the Go Bowling at the Glen. It's at Watkins Glen. This is a road course. The length is 2.45 miles. Number of laps is 90, so it's not a lot at all. And we only have 67.5 Dominator points to work with. So this is not a Dominator kind of racetrack. We want guys that can finish high and get some good place differential. So the strategy and tips for this race. First off, this is an impound race. This is the most important part of this video. All of this could change, but I like to get out an early video for those of you who who like it, which it helps me going through it as well. So this is an impound race. Inspection will be at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and it'll probably finish around 11:30 to 12 o'clock. Now, the last few races before the last one, no one really failed, but then the last race, I think 9 guys failed. A lot of guys went to the back. And if they go to the back, they lose their qualifying position and will be scored from in the back. So they become excellent plays, depending on who it is. So that is something to look out for. If I can post an updated video in time, I will do that. But this my Patreon page and this sheet will come first. So that is that. And then finishing position is also very, very important here. The winning lineup last year had 3 guys starting in the top 10. And so if you can get good guys in the top 10, fit them in your lineup, they can hang in there. They're probably going to be one of the higher scorers of the race, and they'll be in the winning lineup. And we're going to want 1 Dominator max per lineup. So it would not make sense to me to play Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. in a lineup together, because for both of them to hit value, they're going to have to lead both 50 to 60, 70 laps. And guess what? There's only 90 laps, so that can't happen. So it would only make sense for me to play one of them. I don't think there's enough Dominator points for them to both be viable in a lineup, and it's going to hurt your lineup overall if you're paying $23,900 for Truex and Kyle Busch in the same lineup. So my opinion is just to play one of them, and obviously place differential is going to be important like always, and we're going to want guys that have good history at obviously Watkins Glen and just road courses overall. So that is the strategy and tips portion of this video. Let's get into the main cheat sheet and talk about the drivers I do like. So no surprise here, Kyle Busch is up top at 11,600. He qualified 3rd, and he arguably, again, has the best car, which he seems to have every single weekend. Not complaining, I play Kyle Busch a lot, but he swept practice. I do have the 5-lap and 10-lap data here. It's a long track, so they're not going to have 10, 15, 20-lap data. I think there was one guy that did a 15-lap, but can't really base that off anything. So Kyle Busch swept practice, first in the 5-lap in P1, first in 5-lap in P2, and in the 10-lap. And he's been good here. As always, he's good at every single racetrack, pretty much. He's averaging 38 DraftKings points per race here, average driver rating of 109, average finish of 11. No wins here in the past 5 races, which, may sound a little shocking. But he's in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 80% of the time. He's averaging the most fast laps led here per race, and it's 3rd or 4th in average laps led per race. So nothing not to like about Kyle Busch. I don't mind at all if you want to make him your core driver heading into the weekend. He's obviously a great play. Then Martin Truex Jr., I like him a lot. I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't even mind playing more Martin Truex Jr. over Kyle Busch, but I'm probably going to be splitting my ownership between the two of them, because I think they both have really good shots at leading this, dominating this race and winning. Martin Truex Jr. has been very good here, and arguably even maybe a little bit better than Kyle Busch. He's averaging more DraftKings points per race here, average driver rating of 106. Does have a win here in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 60% of the time. So nothing I don't like about Martin Truex Jr. He's been very good here, and I think he's an excellent play. Now Kevin Harvick, I don't really think he can dominate this race, but he's been good recently. He finally got that win off his back, and then he had a pretty good race last time out. And he qualified 15th, and that's the one thing I do like. So he's going to offer us some place differential upside, and he's always got the kind of car to go up front. And I will say his practice was not that strong. He was 15th in the 5-lap in P2 and 18th in the 5-lap in P1. So maybe he doesn't have the best car this weekend. Maybe he's kind of like Martin Truex Jr., where practice won't matter too much. So I am slightly lower on him than the rest of these guys because I don't think he's really got that dominating shot. But I do like him as more of a place differential play, but obviously if I do play any of him, I'm not sure if I'm going to yet, it's going to be a very, very low amount just because of where he's priced, and I obviously like Chase Elliott a lot more at a lower price tag. I don't think I'm going to be able to afford both of them either. So anyway, let's skip Brad Keselowski, so I'm not really too interested in him. Chase Elliott, though, now he's going to be very popular tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. 10,300. He qualified on the pool. He's been awesome here. He was great in practice. Second in 5-lap in P1, second on the 5-lap in P2. And if you look at his history here, he's been a slam dunk pretty much. He's averaging 43 DraftKings points per race, 110 driver rating, which leads all drivers here. Ceiling of 148 driver rating. He does have a win. 9 average finish. He's in the top 5 33% of the time. In the top 15 100% of the time. I would hope he's in the top 15 if he's on the pool, though. But yeah, he's been great here. He's averaging 20 laps led per race, which actually is the most out of all drivers, averaging 11 fast laps per race here. So obviously, I don't see how we're not going to play Chase Elliott. I think he's a cash game lock, and I love playing him this weekend. I don't think we're going to be able to afford Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. If you can, that's great. But maybe some extra value will open up. But I do like Chase Elliott a lot this weekend. He's arguably my top play of the entire slate at that reduced price tag because you do get 1,300 savings off of Kyle Busch. And I do have Kurt Busch as tagged as a GPP play only because he's starting 7th and he's 10,000, which is a massive price tag for him. But he's been good here. So if we look at his stats, he is averaging the second most DraftKings points per race here at 49.5. Average driver rating of 94, average finish of 6.8, which is second out of all drivers here, just outside of Daniel Suarez, but he also has a bigger sample size, so arguably the best average finish. No wins, though, but he is in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 80% of the time, and the top 15 100% of the time. I do think he's a safe play, but I don't think he's got the ceiling of like Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, or Chase Elliott, because I don't think his chances of leading laps are as high as those three. So I do like Kurt Busch, but only in GPPs with low ownership. And then Clint Bowyer, he's a guy I like to use at road courses. He's averaging 40 DraftKings points per race at Watkins Glen. He's got an average finish of 13. He's starting 13th, so I mean, if you look at his average finish, maybe not a ton of upside there, but I do think he can finish above where he's starting. He's always got that upside, but he is really expensive, so I'm probably not going to be too heavy on him. But he's in the top 10 40% of the time, so I do like his chances there to get a top 10. So not a ton of interest in Clint Bowyer just because of that price tag, but I do think he's a good play. Denny Hamlin, I have him tagged as a GPP play because he is starting 6th. And he's averaging 29 DraftKings points per race here. Not great, but average driver rating of 89, and his average finish is 13. But he does have a win here, and he's just overall pretty good at road courses. He's in the top 5 40% of the time, top 10 40% of the time. So I do think he can hang around where he starts, and he has that upside to get up front sometimes. I think he can top 5. He's been racing really good recently, so I do like Denny Hamlin. Joey Logano, he's only 9,100 just because he's not as good at road tracks, but he qualified 21st. That's what I do like, and he's very cheap at 9,100. He's only averaging 27 points per race here, but he does have an average finish of 14, so I think he's going to be a popular place differential guy, and he does have a win here as well. And he's in the top 5 at 40% of the time, top 10 40% of the time, top 10 60% of the time, top 15 60% of the time. So I do like Joey Logano. He is cheaper than he usually is and qualified 21st, so I do think he's a pretty safe cash game play. Then Eric Jones, he qualified 14th, and I do like Eric Jones quite a bit. He's averaging 37 points per race here, 101 driver rating, average finish of 7.5. He looks really good here. He's in the top 10 100% of the time, so if you just base that off of where he qualified, he's going to move up and get you place differential points. So I do like Eric Jones a lot heading into the weekend. He's at a fair price at 8,900 as well. And he was in last year's winning lineup too. And I believe he started 9th. He was also really cheap. He was also much cheaper last year. I think he was only 6,700 or 7,700. So obviously it was easier to fit in your lineups, but I do think he's a really good play. Ryan Blaney, he qualified 19th. He's been decent here. Average DraftKings points per race at 36. average finish of 13, so I just think he's a nice place differential play. Don't really need to go too deep into that. And then Daniel Suarez, he's going to be extremely popular this week. He might be my highest owned driver. It's for good reason. This is his track at Watkins Glen. He's been awesome here. I believe he's got 2 race sample size, but they've been really good races. He's been in the top 4 both times. Average finish of 3.5. Average driver rating of 107, averaging 51 DraftKings points per race. I absolutely love him this week. He's possibly my favorite play of the entire weekend. He's 8,100. You can afford him, so give me all the Daniel Suarez I can get tomorrow. Then Almirola and Bush are not too interested. Alex Bowman. Now, if you look at his history at Watkins Glen, it's not the best, but he's been much better this season. He's been racing really well. He qualified 17th. I have to think he's going to move up, and the Hendrick cars are looking pretty good in practice. So just like Chase Elliott, Bowman was fast too. He was 5th in the 5-lap in practice too, and 4th in the 10-lap. So I do think he's got some speed. I think he can possibly top 12, top 10 if we're lucky. And at only 7,600, I don't mind taking a shot at that. And then Ryan Newman. Now, I don't love the play, but he did qualify 25th. So I'm really kind of hoping some guys fail so I don't have to play Ryan Newman because he has not been very good here. He's only averaging 13 points per race and an average finish of 23. So it doesn't look promising, and he's got a really bad driver rating. But I just don't mind the price tag and the qualifying spot there. Hopefully he can move up some spots. But again, not someone I'm going to be really high on, but I had to tag him as a place differential guy just because of where he's starting. Then William Byron. Now this is going to be an interesting one this weekend. He only has 1 race here, but he was very good. He finished 8th, and I do have him tagged as a GPP play just because of how good he's been this season and recently too. And he's only 7,200, and if he can stay in the top 8, I think he can pay off his salary at 7,200. He's pretty cheap, and again, starting position is going to be important, and finishing position is going to be very important. So if he can hang around the top 8, top 6, I think he's going to pay off value even with losing some place differential spots. Then Hemrick, I think he's interesting, but I will say I'm not the heaviest on Daniel Hemrick this weekend. Paul Menard, I just have him tagged just because he's cheap and he's starting 22nd, and we're going to need some cheaper guys to be able to afford some of these studs. So I don't want to go too deep into Paul Menard, but I do think he's an interesting play. Michael McDowell, I have him as a cheap play. I know he qualified 11th, but he has been good at Watkins Glen just for the cheap guys. But I will say I'm not the heaviest on Michael McDowell, but I do think he might be worth a shot if you want to get lucky. I know Matt DiBenedetto, he started up top at one of the races recently, and he was able to hang with him, so maybe Michael McDowell is able to do the same thing. Again, it's risky, but it might pay off. But again, I'm not going to be too heavy on Michael McDowell. Hopefully he's one of the guys that go to the back, and I'd be very interested in that. And then Austin Dillon. Now, he's been really bad here too. But he qualified 28th, and he's very, very cheap. He's at 6,600, and I know the numbers are not good, but he technically has a higher average finish than where he started. He's got top 25 upside, top 20 upside. If we look at his average running position, I actually don't know what it is off the top of my head, but if we take a look, yeah, it's 24, so it's a few spots, and he's 6,600, and he's a better driver than most of these guys down here. Now, he tends to screw me every single week, but I don't mind taking a shot at Austin Dillon. Then Matt DiBenedetto at 6,500, starting 20th. I think he's going to be pretty popular now. He's in better equipment this year, so you kind of have to throw a lot of these numbers out the window. He had a really good performance at Sonoma. I don't remember exactly where he finished, but it was really good. And I remember not having a ton of him, so it kind of hurt me. But I do like Matt DiBenedetto. He starting 20th. I think he's going to move up. He had some speed in practice. He was 13th in the 5-lap, 10th in the 10-lap in practice 2, and 11th in the 5-lap in practice 1. So I do like Matthew DiBenedetto quite a bit. I can see him having quite a bit of exposure tomorrow, and I think he's a pretty good cheap play. And then Stenhouse, I'm going to be skipping over really. Matt Tiff, not too interested. Ryan Preece, not too interested. Kligerman, not really. Bubba Wallace, not really. But Ty Dillon, let's talk about Ty Dillon. He's starting 27th. He's only 5,700, and he's averaging 29 points per race here, which it's going to knock value out of the park if he can do that. He has an average finish of 21, which would give us 6th place differential, and I do think he's a pretty good play at this price point. Then David Reagan, he's starting 31st. Now, he's only averaging 18 points per race here, but he's qualifying below where he usually does. He's usually a mid-20s guy, and he's got an average finish of 25, so obviously that's not the best, but I do think he can pick us up a few place differential points, and at only 5,600, I think he's worth a shot because he's better than most of these scrubs back here. And then Reed Sorensen, I don't love this play. Now, it's only a one-race sample size, but he did finish 23rd, and he is starting dead last. And he did get 37 points in that race. So I do think he's an interesting pump play, but again, not someone I would love to play just because of the bad equipment he's in. Obviously, he's not the best driver in the world either. So anyway, I think that's all I have for this video. So hopefully not everything changes, and this video was a waste of time after inspection, but hope it was helpful for you. But anyway, before we get out of here, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that. Hit that notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. Link is in the description below for my Patreon page. And I wish you guys the best of luck tomorrow.